Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shabbat Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another video. And in this video, I'll be profiling this clip from CBN News' YouTube channel titled New Report, U.S. Unprepared for Devastating Future War with Russia or China. And hey, this is right on time because we're living at the end of not just, America being the superpower out here, but Esau Edom, the so-called white man's rulership as a whole. And the elites have used America as what? The hammer of the earth to, beat these other nations into submission. But America is weak morally, economically, and militarily, hence why reports like this are coming out. And in this upcoming, third woe, World War III, America will be taken and ultimately wiped off the face of the earth with, nuclear missiles shot from nations, led by Russia, like China, Russia's other allies, as well as the allies of the United States of America that at some point during World War III are going to turn against her and ally themselves with Russia. Read Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. The 10 horns, speaking of the EU, which thou sawest upon the beast, NATO. These shall hate the whore, America, and eat her flesh, and burn her with fire, nuclear fire. But before we get into this clip, let me see. I'm actually going to get that precept that I quoted. This is Jeremiah 50:23. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become desolation among the nations? And that's speaking of the virgin daughter of Babylon, Mystery Babylon, Babylon the Great, the United States of America. And as it said, America or Babylon is the hammer of the earth. And it's going to come to a point where it's going to be broken and made a desolation amongst the nations. It's being made a moral and economic desolation right now with this country's infrastructure collapsing, but then it's going to be made a complete desolation when those nuclear missiles hit this place and turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. But let's get back to this clip. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
The heads of the Commission on the National Defense Strategy told the Senate Armed Services Committee that the United States is nowhere near prepared for the dangerous multi-threat environment it's facing.
The public has no idea how grave the threats are.
Commission Chairman Representative Jane Harman and Vice Chair Ambassador Eric Edelman issued a dire warning to the committee Tuesday.
The homeland, if there's a conflict, is not going to be a sanctuary anymore, and the first attacks will likely be in the cyber domain, and they will be incredibly disabling.
The public is...
What did he just say? The homeland will no longer be safe. Cyber attacks are going to hit this place, which they're already hitting this place. And then what? They're actually going to be foreign nations in America, fighting against the American citizen. Hence, why the northern and the southern borders of America have just been left damn near completely open. While the elites have used America to push forward their agenda, their NW0, their great RESET, that fourth industrial revolution, it doesn't mean that they have any loyalties to America. They're globalists for a reason. The America's, reached the use that they need it to be. So what? Now they plan on foreclosing on it. So, the borders are open, and a lot of people from different nations are flooding into this country. And it's not just, South Americans and Central Americans looking for a better life. A lot of those migrants are actually soldiers from other countries, sleeper cells getting put into place, getting ready to get that call to make their move. This is Jeremiah chapter 51. I'm going to read verses 11 to 14. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Yahweh hath raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes. And that's speaking of Russia, because Russia is known as, the spiritual Medes, in some verses of the scriptures, besides being known as Gog in Ezekiel chapter 38. And those arrows that are being made bright is ultimately talking about what? Those nuclear missiles. For his devices against Babylon, remember the hammer of the earth, to destroy it. Hey, how is Babylon made a desolation amongst the nations? Because it is the vengeance of Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple, for the controversy of Zion, because America has been the number one place of affliction for the children of Israel. The children of Israel known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. And it's about time for America and Esau to pay that tab, which, hey, her sins have reached unto heaven. Verse 12, set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes. From what? Cyber attacks, sleeper cells and soldiers being let in through the borders, the supply chain disruptions, etc., etc. For Yahweh hath devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. O thou that dwellest upon many waters. And when you go into Revelation 17, it talks about those waters that Babylon sits upon being many peoples, these different nations that come to America for that so-called American dream. And what's America known as? The melting pot, abundant in treasures. And America, even though it's on the decline, is, still the number one consumerist nation on the face of the earth. And it still has that image of being a place full of many riches. Thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Verse 14, Yahweh of hosts hath sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars. And we're seeing this place being filled with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. And I saw a good visualization of what's about to happen to America earlier, tonight. I went to the gas station, to get some gas, and then I went inside to look for something to eat, and you had one, skinny, frail-looking white woman in there. She was young and pretty good-looking, but besides her, it was nothing but, people of color in there. You had Jake in there, so-called Negroes of the Southern Kingdom. You had the Northern Kingdom in there, and I even heard some. They looked like Jake, but they had that African accent, so they could have been Jake or they could have been Hamites, and you could see that Edomite woman was visibly scared in there that something was going to happen. And that's America right now. A frail little white woman surrounded by, so-called people of color, and wondering if something bad's going to happen to her. Hey, America has been filled with men like caterpillars from these different nations already, with their eyes wide open and their mouths drooling to get their hands on this whore.
Essentially clueless. about the massive cyber attacks that could be launched any day by our adversaries, not just nation states, but rogue actors as well.
The report warns a cyber war with China or Russia would be devastating. America's critical infrastructure would come under attack, possibly cutting off power, water, transportation, and financial systems, and shutting down the supply chain. The report states major...
And the two main points I want to get to is it talked about what cyber attacks, which of course you got Russia and China and Iran doing cyber attacks in this country. But again, you have the elites ready to foreclose on this place, orchestrating a lot of them as well. Remember what K. Tissue Schwab said. We're coming into the time of the polycrisis of the cyber pandemic, which could disrupt infrastructure, hospitals, transportation, internet, all that. But what they just say, cyber attacks could especially hit the supply chain as well as turn off lights and water. This is 2 Esdras chapter 6 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to read verses 22 to 24. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. And those storehouses go into what? These grocery stores, your Rouse's, Kroger's, Publix, Aldi's, whatever you have in your area. The full storehouses or the shelves suddenly being found empty. And what could be a major cause of that? Supply chain disruptions. What do they say? That every grocery store is only 72 hours away from being, completely empty. Well, hey, these are the times we're coming into, and it's all according to biblical prophecy. And, we got a good preview of that back during 2019 to 2021 when the C019 caused supply chain disruptions, and there were items for a couple of months to a year that you just didn't see on the store shelves anymore. And then people got animalistic real quickly. I remember seeing one clip where two men were fighting over the last case of water and one stabbed the other. And I remember that night before they really started pushing that C019, I think it was the night they said that the NBA season that year would be canceled. I went to the grocery store to pick up some stuff, and a lot of other people had the same idea. The lines were long, and then when they opened up another line to ease the pressure, people just bum rushed that line, cutting in front of people, just getting it how they live. Well, when the real show happens, it's going to be much worse than that. And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. Here's the main point I wanted to get to. At that time shall friends fight one against another. Because of what? Food shortages out here, the power being out, or what, civil unrest, which there will be civil unrest in the United States of America. Isaiah chapter 19 verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, the modern day spiritual Egyptians, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8. America is Egypt, spiritual Egypt, as well as being Babylon the Great. And you had that Republican senator from Ohio, maybe a couple of weeks ago, say that if DJ Donald Trump doesn't win the elections, only thing it's going to take to bring this country back is a civil war. And everybody's on edge about these upcoming elections in November. We'll have to see if we even get to them. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. The water being cut off. Possibly due to cyber attacks.
Major war would affect the life of every American in ways we can only begin to imagine. The report echoes a warning FBI Director Christopher Wray gave Congress.
China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike.
One of the things we might anticipate, for example, is if China decides to annex Taiwan or whatever euphemism they might use, they might engage in a major cyber attack here first, for which we are underprepared.
The Commission found the U.S. defense sector lacking in almost every area, including integrated weapons technology, platforms, and software. With recruitment levels for all branches lagging, America needs a larger fighting force. And the hearing discussed lowering physical standards for recruits and even instituting a draft.
We found that
the American military is through. You know, there's a YouTube channel I watch from time to time called Jameson's Travels, which is a Edomite former Marine who just documents the decline of the U.S. military. And if you watch some of his clips, you know, the U.S. military, damn near all branches, are a joke right now. You know, it's a rainbow coalition feelings fun fest where they got stress meditation to deal with boot camp and overweight, you know, not just recruits, but drill instructors. This is Jeremiah 51 verse 30. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. And, you know, you got a lot of people that are in the military complaining about how they want to get out and even saying, you know, I didn't sign up for the military to go fight in World War III. Their might hath failed. Low recruitment numbers, having to lower the standards, you know, to get more recruits in there. They became as women. They became weak. They became emotional. And in some cases, they became as pseudo women, if you know what I mean. Decepticons. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. And what did they also say? That there's talks of reinstituting a draft, which a draft is coming as well. This is Isaiah chapter 3, verses 25 to 26. And this is mainly talking about the daughters of Zion, you know, the women of Israel, chiefly the southern kingdom, or the so-called black, you know, so-called Negro, so-called African American woman getting afflicted during these times of Jacob's trouble, which are quickly coming upon us. And one of the afflictions that's going to come upon, you know, not just you southern kingdom women, but you women of the tribes as a whole, is thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war, and her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. Hey, a lot of, you know, Tyrones, Pookies, Nooks, all them niggas is gonna get drafted and go die in a foxhole over in the Middle East somewhere. And you women are gonna be left assed out here, you know, prey to the wolves, prey to those men that have come across the border and filled up Babylon as caterpillars to set up those ambushes. And it's not just going to be you Israelite women, hey, but you Babylonian or American women of all the nations as well. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 16. I'm going to read verses 33 to 34. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. Women being destitute of the help of men out here. Verse 34, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, getting drafted to go die, and their husbands shall perish of famine. And, you know, the men that are left over in America, a lot of them are going to get killed by the many calamities that the Most High is bringing to this place. Famines, pestilences, civil unrest, you name it. And, you know, back in that Isaiah, what was it? 26 was the last verse. Then immediately when you go into Isaiah chapter 4 and 1, what's it talk about? 7 women taking hold of 1 man. And that just means a complete number of women. And it says, and why does it say those women are going to take hold of 1 man? To say, hey, take away our reproach. We'll make our own food. we'll make our own clothing. Women are going to need that manly help out here. And, and the only men that are going to be able to help are the men of the Lord, the elect. But, for a lot of you Israelite women out there, it's going to be too late for you. And you're going to be trodden down as the mire of the streets, as it says in Micah chapter 7. But, as it clearly says, many men will be destroyed because many men will get drafted to go die in World War III. And, a lot of you women aren't going to be exempt either. You've heard how they're talking about, in America, adding women to the draft. And then over in places like Germany, women are already, on the draftee list. Let's see. All right.
That the joint force is at the breaking point of maintaining readiness today. Adding more burden without adding resources to rebuild readiness will cause it to break.
And with so many cyber threats,
I'd say with that clip, you get the point. But hey, it's not looking good, for the the well-favored harlot, that whore, America. And we can clearly see that biblical prophecy is getting ready to, take this whore out. And like I said at the beginning of the video, what this is ultimately going to culminate into is nuclear missiles being fired on this place and wiping it off the face of the earth. Which brings me to my last precepts. In Isaiah chapter 13, I'm going to start at verse 17. And what does the header read? Babylon will fall to the Medes. And this isn't talking about the ancient Neo-Babylonian Empire being taken down by Darius, the Mede, on behalf of Cyrus of the Medo-Persian Empire. This is talking about the daughter of Babylon, America, being taken down by the spiritual Medes, Russia. As it said back in Jeremiah chapter 50, the bright arrows of the kings of the Medes shall take Babylon. Behold, I will stir up the Medes, the Russians against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. And when the time comes to turn those keys and shoot those nukes, the US dollar, gold and silver, nuclear weapons ban treaties or peace treaties aren't going to stop them from doing so. Because, as it says in Proverbs 21 verse 1, the king's heart or mind is in the hand of the Lord, that turneth it whithersoever he will. And the Lord's, objective is to have America burned by those nukes. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and bows shoot arrows. So those are the launch platforms and silos that are going to fire those missiles. And they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children. Hey, and what do they say? A bullet doesn't discriminate? Well, these nuclear missiles aren't going to discriminate. Everybody that is not of the 1/3 of the elect in America, whether they be man, woman, child, young, old, healthy or crippled, is going to be fuel for the fire. And Babylon, America, the glory of the kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And besides being known as Babylon and Egypt in the scriptures, America is also known as spiritual Sodom back in Revelation 11 verse 8, which is very easy to see. What is the month of June known as in America? Pride Month, Color Month. And just as ancient Sodom and Gomorrah was overthrown with fire and brimstone from the sky, this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be overthrown by that modern fire and brimstone. 200 million nuclear missiles. And it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. And that's how we know this isn't talking about, the ancient Babylonian Empire, which is in modern day Iraq. People are still dwelling there to this day. And after those nukes hit America, it's going to be turned into the biblical lake of fire, and then that desolate, uninhabitable wasteland where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again, and after a time only desert creatures are going to dwell here. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. And when we see titles like this, New Report, U.S. Unprepared for Devastating Future War with Russia or China, we know that Babylon, America's time is near to come, and her days are no longer being prolonged. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.